Hello and welcome to the Guitar Hang podcast. I'm your host, Jon Stankorb. Well, it's season 9, episode 2, and we're hanging with one of the true giants of guitar, Steve Morse. Steve's career has defined what it means to be both technically brilliant and musically expressive. From his work with the Dixie Dregs and Deep Purple to the legendary Steve Morse Band, his playing continues to inspire generations of guitarists. In this episode, Steve and I dig into his brand new Steve Morse Band album, Triangulation, a record packed with incredible writing, melody, and musicianship. We also talk about his upcoming tour, his approach to melodicism and songwriting, and also what continues to drive him creatively after decades at the top of his game. So grab your guitar, get comfortable, and let's dive into a truly inspiring conversation with the one and only Steve Morse.
I've listened a couple times, thanks to Steve, to Triangulation. It's just an incredible record. It's such a warm feeling because I first heard you, Van, and Dave play back in the early '90s. I guess my first recollection, or first entry point was High Tension Wires, and all the subsequent albums and the chemistry between the two of you and the interplay and just sonically, this record sounds amazing.
Thank you. Actually, we're real glad that we got Carl Roa to mix it. He's a guitarist, and one of the things that happened to me was I got an ear infection while I was on tour.
Yeah,
and it never completely went away, and I ended up losing the hearing in one ear. So I can only hear in mono, and the nerves are gone. I had surgery and all this stuff trying to fix it. And people say, oh, it's because of the music. No, it had nothing to do with the music. This ear went to just as many gigs as that ear.
That's right. Yeah.
And we wore the same earplugs on both. So anyway, I couldn't mix it. And it's quicker when I mix it because I just... when I'm going along, I have it mixing itself all the time anyway. So that, if there's a part that's too loud, I bring it down. If there's a part that's not loud enough, I bring it up as I'm going.
Right.
And basically, I just kind of render that and then give it to somebody to do the mastering. And everybody in the band hates my mix, and they hate it equally. And that's how I could tell in the Dregs if I was doing a good mix, is if everybody hated it equally. If anybody liked it, I knew that I had them too loud.
Yeah. I want, and they're always fighting for everything else louder than but that's the first thing that I think, whether you're a huge guitar fan or just sonically, it's very pleasing to the ear, as many of your records are. And that's the first thing that I was struck with. Is my favorite time to listen to things is I do a lot of driving for the band that I'm in. We tour and we're based in Cincinnati. So I'm commuting between Raleigh and Cincinnati. It's my favorite time to listen to stuff. And I was just blown away at how great it sounded. And it's interesting to hear what other perspective did you gain having somebody else mix it for you? I mean, was there any added benefit besides the obvious outcome of the record and the process of doing that? Was it freeing? Was it?
Yeah. The one bad thing is that I could hear something I could do quickly, but it's hard to explain to somebody. But the benefits are much greater. Like I could, once a day, I could listen to a new version of a mix or something,
right,
and just listen to it one time and write down my notes. And he would do it with, every time. And he would collate everybody's notes and make all the changes. And so that you don't lose your perspective that way. If you're mixing a song and doing it repetitively, which is the worst way for me to do it, it's, like I said, you lose. It's like writing a song at 3 a.m., which I do a lot. If you've been going over and over and over it, you lose perspective of whether it's really, worth putting all that time into it. I like to work on a little bit and then put it away and then listen to it a few days later and get an impression. So with Carl doing the mixing this way, that was the big advantage, was being able to have perspective.
And Brian engineered it and Carl mixed, or it was?
Yeah, my friend Brian is a, just a super intelligent guy that can do anything. He plays keyboards and guitars, and he had like started his own music store, and can be in lots of different bands actually making money somehow, cover bands, and does a lot better than some of the touring guys, But anyway, he volunteered to come down. I said, you better think twice about this. Remember what happened last time? Last time we were doing like really a lot of hours in the day.
Yeah.
And so he came down, and it's really good for me. I can sit there and do it myself, but having Brian there, it goes so much faster. Well, and he says, how about let's go and look at this part again, and he'd make a little subtle suggestions about things, you want to go back and beef up that part with something? I said, yeah, I was gonna, but yeah, let's do it now. Instead of putting things off or coming back to it later, we just did it and kept moving on. And the song Too Many Parts is like 12 minutes of, there's so many parts in it. And that alone is so intimidating to try to tackle. And it just went much easier having Brian there. And he's a very musical guy.
Yeah.
And he would bring things like, here, you got to try this preamp. You got to try this. I got this one pedal for you. Look. And he's a super energetic, positive person.
Yeah. It seems like you've got your core tone of things that you like to use, but it's always nice when there's somebody that has got the energy and the excitement to bring in new things and knows you well enough as a player and as a friend to say, hey, this might be something that will add something really special to this part or to this recording thing. So that's a invaluable thing to have, because I know for myself, it's such a rabbit hole when you start investigating gear and things on YouTube and that kind of stuff. And I have a buddy who's really far more knowledgeable than I am. And he does all my guitar work and stuff. So it's nice to have somebody that can do those fact-finding things for you.
Yeah, but most of all, it was nice to have another set of ears to bounce an idea, especially doing solos. And some people don't want anybody around when they're doing the solos, because it's like, you're experimenting, right? And you're not, like if I can play at this level, performance-wise, when I solo, I'm generally playing this level because I'm trying different things and trying to make things fit that are just coming to mind at the moment. And what you do is, if your average is here when you try solos, every once in a while, it's average. Some will be worse and some will be better. And you look for those points where it's better. And Brian is really good at that. He said, I know you messed up a few notes there, but I really like the direction you had there. They're just like a producer. He just got natural instincts.
Do you like to do you like to do a couple of takes and then go back, have a listen, and then have a conversation with things that worked, or or comping and punching in certain things, or is it different song to song, or? Oh
yeah, it's different. It depends on what I came up with. Like on some of the tunes, especially in Too Many Parts, there's a couple solo sections. They end up almost being like parts, because I was, unconsciously making a melody out of the solo section. I didn't realize it till Brian said, go back to that theme you did there. Mm-hmm. I said, what theme? He said, and he showed me the early take. It said, okay, yeah, that could be a theme. Yeah. So I tried it again using that theme, and it made a nice melody. So I said, well, let's let's just use that. Let's harmonize that. Or
Yeah, it seems like younger players that might be tuning in could take something from that, because as you acquire more technique and more capabilities, sometimes you're so enamored with that kind of thing that you're not thinking of melodic parts that become really cornerstones of the song themselves. You know, some of these things that you came up with trying to play in a melodic capacity, even with extreme technique, become these really iconic parts. And that's, I think, at our best, that's what we're shooting for, whether it's you or Jeff Beck, these really iconic things that stand out and you kind of go, wow, that's really what the crux of the epicenter of what I was trying to say in that solo.
One of my most formative teachers at University of Miami when I was a freshman was Stan Somoli, great guitar player, a very gifted teacher. He said, let me tell you about something that Wes Montgomery said. Wes Montgomery was an early electric guitar, jazz guitar player. And if I remember right, I think he played with his thumb.
Yeah.
A very, very beautiful mellow tone. Not normally the kind of music that I listen to. You know, I was coming straight off Zeppelin, and, you know, and not quite fitting into this whole jazz thing. But he said, the melody, this is what Wes Montgomery's quote was, the melody should be just as beautiful as the song, as a song melody. So, and that became now in rock, there are plenty of exceptions to that. In fact, more exceptions than those that follow it. But if you think about it, you know, when Eric Clapton did the quote from Blue Moon, that was a great example of it. And when Hendrix did some of his simpler guitar phrases, or even on even in his blues based ones like Foxy Lady, where you just would ding, 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 ding. He make little melodic bits all the time. And what is and what should never be, Jimmy Page doing, and anything that Jeff Beck did, the melodic stuff really sticks with you. So that's a big lesson.
Yeah. It was interesting you were talking about Wes, and that that wasn't something that you were really into. You're more into, Jimmy Page, Hendrix, the more rock guy. But your playing over the years has taken guitar players that may normally have been really influenced in those ways and gave them more interest in fusion-esque stuff or styles that they may not have checked out. Because I was one. I started off David Gilmour, Jimmy Page, Hendrix. And then by the time I was listening to you and Eric Johnson, some other players, that was heading me in a different trajectory to listen to more experimental things that had different time signatures or just more modal things that were exciting. And I think the same can be said for guys that kind of came from the jazz thing when they got into you were that perfect marriage between the both worlds with the Dregs and Dixie Dregs and your solo stuff. It was something that it was rock, but there was some elements of fusion and other colors in it. And that's an exciting, because there's not that many players that I could point to that did that so well, that kind of ushered in people to say, it's beautiful on all sides, whether it's Allman Brothers or it's Mahavishnu. These two worlds, they sit neatly together.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I like it. That's what I've always felt, is I've always had a hard time. At first, I had a hard time hearing the difference between styles, because I was learning to read music on guitar. And I had this book that was my grandfather's that I never met. I had inherited his violin, and I couldn't play the violin. I was trying to teach myself without lessons. I couldn't get a good sound out of it, but I took that book of Bach partitas and was learning it. It's like, God, this is unusual on guitar. It's not the normal shapes, but man, if this was sped up,
Right,
this
yeah.
would be like rock and roll. And so that became something I always thought about, is that in my mind, Bach was a metal composer that had a gig where he had to play straight.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
his bass lines, especially the stuff that can live in the guitar register, and his pieces for cello and things like that are so rhythmic and energetic, and they are rock and roll to me. So I've never seen that much difference from one style of music to another. I know there are differences in how the lyrics are and how the people are dressed and how they act and the tone of the guitar and stuff like that. But I don't really hear much difference.
Yeah. It seems that sensibility is something that you share with Van and Dave. The fact that you've got so many different influences, but they're all a lot of through lines between the three of you. And the fact that you've played so long together, if you come up with an idea, the fact that before you even execute the idea, they're already tracking as, okay, we have an idea of where this is going. You know, we're on. That must be something that there's many benefits to having a band for as long as you've had, but that's one of the great things, is to know each other so well that it becomes like telepathy. Songs come together, or conversely can take a left turn in a way that's just so fun and exciting that it would be very hard to do that if you're just doing a Steve Morse album and you're bringing in folks that were lovely players, but you didn't have that 30 years of playing experience with. 40 years, whatever.
And on this album, it's especially nice having Dave in town. He can come in and, you know, I'd add to an idea and overnight, and then he'd come in the next day, we'd play it. I'd say, here, to do this. I said, but that's different from what you had yesterday. I said, yeah, I know, I changed it. That's because I got a different part here. Let's try it this way. Yeah. And add on parts and set out a template for the tune. Then Van would come down and we'd play it as a trio. And the idea is, if we can play it as a trio and hear the tune, then it doesn't matter if there's going to be overdubs or not.
Right.
And speaking of overdubs, we do have some tunes that were set up as duets. Mm-hmm. The Eric Johnson tune is, I call it Texas. I first met him in Texas in the 1970s. He had just finished playing in the Electromagnets, his earlier band, and was doing solo stuff. And so I remember just every time we went to Texas, I got to hear Eric Johnson play. It was always a treat, because he said, just this gem of a player. And, and in Texas, like, you drive and 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 drive. You finally get somewhere. It's a huge place. It's bigger than a lot of countries. Anyway, so the song was kind of written in to me, it's a 70s style of feel, but I don't know. It reminds me of the sort of upbeat rock stuff that we used to do. Yeah. And so I have my part, then Eric's, my part, then Eric's, and it goes like that. So for the tour, we've got this very versatile, very amazing guitar player, and he does a lot of things besides just playing guitar. His name is Angel Vivaldi, and I worked with him doing a video of his, and I was very impressed. He was producing the video and everything and playing the parts perfectly, along with the recording to get the video takes. And he had the whole band of young super chopped players that could play along constantly. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so he's doing the part of Eric when we play live. And then the other duet tune is with John Petrucci. Yeah. And it's a little bit more heavy and deliberate. And I feel like it's closer to John Petrucci's style. And So and Jon did a fantastic job, just, effortlessly doing the melodies and his solo, just like, he's got some famously hymn moments.
Yeah.
And so Angel's also, playing the part of John Petrucci for those. And we got some other tunes in the set that are ones that we haven't done because there was, it felt weird doing these certain parts without harmony, where I had overdubbed the harmony part. And so now with two guitars, it feels fuller and like we can go back and do these tunes, do it better. So it's nice. And so it's got a different approach on this tour. And on the album, having two duets.
Yeah.
And then also my son played on the memorial tune that we played for my wife who died of cancer. And it's called Taken by an Angel. It was named that before I even met Angel Vivaldi.
Oh.
Well, before we worked together, and it had nothing to do with his name,
Yeah.
But I was just an image I had in my mind. Mm-hmm. And my son played, and that's always a great moment when I get to do anything musically with my son. He's he lives 100 miles away and don't see him as often as I should because he works a lot. I'm gone sometimes, and we have a great relationship. Love to grab any chance I can to do music or talk about music with him. So
yeah, there's always so much magic and joy in your music, but I thought that was the spiritual epicenter of the recording because of the nature of the song and having Kevin play on it and having the pleasure of meeting your wife a couple of just such a gem of a person. That's the song I probably listened to the most. I think it's just a gorgeous tune, just absolutely fabulous. And I was thinking to myself that the 12-year-old Jon Petrucci, if you would have told him, one day in the future, maybe 40 years, maybe a little less, Steve Morse is going to ask you to play on a record, because arguably, if you took your influence away from Jon, I mean, it would be hard to imagine, because what you've meant to him and so many of us, but Jon specifically, because he is arguably your biggest fan. So that must have been a very great treat for him. He must have been all, ear to ear smile for the entire thing.
Well, I was actually worried about asking him and Eric, because these guys are my friends, and I look up to him, and Jon has just been ridiculous with this thing of somehow getting better on top of being a maestro to get better, just constantly. I really, he's at a level that I can't even comprehend, because I tried to do some of the stuff he's doing, and I got to a certain point, and this guy just he's headed up for it, man. I can't believe how good he is. So I'm very proud to have known him and be a tiny fraction of the part. He would have been a monster in, no matter who he listened to, but that dedication to keep this up for decades and keep getting better. That's the part that I really want to focus on when I talk to, especially to young players. It's, yes, there's a ton of talent there, but my God, there's even more work and discipline involved to keep yourself in training that well. Yeah.
I think what Jon was expressing in a time that I had spoken to him was that he was saying that about you. And he said that was the thing that was so exciting that kind of developed his practice routine, was that he was seeing you evolve from album to album, or incorporating different things like the technique on Country Colors, the harp harmonic things, and the melody, the classical stuff, the lines, but somebody that was always striving. And I think that's what should happen. Each generation that comes after is taking some of the intangibles, some of the things that you don't see behind the scenes, the practice regimen, the dedication to the craft, learning the recording facet of it. There's so much to learn. And I think maybe that's what he took from you and then carried it forward. And I guess we're all standing on the shoulders of the people who inspired us, So it's we thank you for him, and he thanks you for, and it's a beautiful, very circuitous, if that's the right word, thing where it's all interconnected. So
yeah, and in a way, it's like the pinnacle of my career is reached now by hearing John Petrucci say something that I was an influence on him. That's like awesome.
So as you get ready for the tour, you'll feature a nice portion of this album and also other Steve Morse things.
Yes.
Will there be any non-dregs things, any special tunes, or is it?
I think we got a dregs tune, and Angel's going to be playing a lot of support stuff in that, and then we got old trio tunes that Steve Morse Band, and some tunes that we didn't play live very much. That we didn't play live, but one that we didn't play live at all because if I felt like it sounded bare without the overdub guitar doing the second guitar part. And then it's a different set, so, and a different sound, and I think it sounded really good. We've already been playing, Dave, Angel, and I, so we got another rehearsal coming up. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, as you start putting together these the set list and that kind of thing, are there things that I know I'm somebody that suffers from arthritis, but I still work at it, and I believe, if I'm correct, that you also have had some issues with that, and are you? Yeah,
I still got it. There's the arm. That's my radiation mark. I'm getting radiation treatments on, and I've had all kinds of injections, including injecting my own blood cells into the joint. And I try every kind of remedy there is. Yeah. In fact, I'm featured on Sucker Bait magazine. It's for salesmen, like whoever's they think is the most gullible consumer of all time, they put on the cover. And so I've been on the cover like 6 times. Basically, anybody that's selling expensive cures for arthritis.
Yeah. Are there things that have helped alleviate anything like in the realm of like diet or nutrition type stuff? Anti-inflammatory diet for sure. It's helped get my blood numbers better too, so I don't have to take any statins or anything. Yeah. And how much has it changed or how have you gone about working on your is it right hand technique? Do you feel like it's affected the most in terms of? I got both hands, but my right hand is this is the spot where the most damage was done from picking in 2 axes and muting. So I've got some artificial muting apparatus and practicing with stiff wrists and at the gigs, sacrificing the pain in exchange for the pain of flexing the wrist more to make the parts sound better. That's all I can do. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you, John. Steve.
Okay.
Well, it was a privilege to sit down with the great Steve Morse. His insight into melody, songwriting, and creativity is a masterclass in musicianship. If you haven't yet checked out his new album, Triangulation, do yourself a favor, listen to it from front to back. It's an incredible piece of work. You can catch Steve Morse Band live out on tour soon, so please make sure to look up those dates and experience the magic live. Thanks as always for tuning into the Guitar Hang podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button, share it with your guitar buddies, and leave us a review. It really helps things keep going. You can find more episodes, gear reviews, and lessons over at johnsguitarlounge.com, and follow us on YouTube and Instagram for all the latest updates. Until next time, keep playing, keep creating, and keep the hang alive. I'm Jon Stankorb. See you on the next episode of the Guitar Hang podcast.